Hello guys, welcome to Unit 5, which will be dealing with functions and slope and rate of change. And this is going to be a very fun unit in class where we will actually do the experiments to deal with real data. So I'm really looking forward to this unit. So let's go ahead and get started with functions today. Alright, so in today's lesson, we will be learning about functions in graphs and what is a function, and we will also learn about inverse function and also how to graph functions. Alright, these are your vocabulary words for today. So the definition of a function is that it operates according to a rule to produce exactly one output value for each input value. We will see that later on in the next slide. And then we also have input is the value substituted into the function, and then the output is the result from the substitution of a given input into the function. So let's move on to the next slide. So here it is in very simple words. So if a function relates each element of a set with exactly one element in another set. So here we have set x and set y. Basically what a function is, for every value that we put in the input, we will get an output. So if I put 1, I will get 1. If I put 3, I'll get 9. If I put 4, I get 16. And if I put in, now the main question here is now, what are we doing to x right here in order for us to get the y? So it's almost like a calculator. If we put 1 plus 1 in a calculator, we will never get a different answer besides 2, because it is programmed to add 1 whenever we put in a number. So it's doing plus 1 for whenever we are adding 1 to a number. So let's see what's happening here with this function. So here the function is, how are we getting y? How are we getting y? So this right here, we are getting a y by squaring x. So let's take a look. 1, if I square 1, my answer will be 1. So that will be my output. 3, that's my x. If I square 3, my answer will be 9. 4, positive 4. If I square positive 4, that will be 4 times 4. I will get 16, positive 16. And also if I get negative 4, I will get positive 16 when we square negative 4 times negative 4. Okay, so a function, exactly one output. So for everything that we put in there, we get exactly one output for each element. Alright, so let's go ahead and take a look at this function. Let's go ahead and talk about what are we doing to x in order to get y. Alright, go ahead and think about it a little bit. And let's look at some of these numbers. What can we do to some of these numbers to get y? Okay, so let's go ahead and put them in order. Alright, now if you didn't see it before with the numbers all jumbled up, go ahead and see now if you can see what is happening to the x's. What operation are we doing on x to get y's? Okay, so here you can see that we are quadrupling x. We are multiplying x by 4 in order to get y, which is my function rule right here. This right here is called a function rule. Let me write that down. This right here is called a function rule. Okay, so that means in order for me, if I put 1 in here, so my rule is y equal 4x. So that means in order for me to get y, I have to multiply the x's by 4. So if I take 1, plug it in here, so 4 times 1, I will get 4, check. Then we do the same thing to the next element. 4 times 2 we get 8, and then 4 times 3 we get 12, and so on and so forth. Okay, so here we have what is called an inverse function. So an inverse function is taking the output and then go back to the input. So if they tell me I have 4, 8, 12, 16, and 20, then I can say, okay, so I can work backwards and see what did we do, what number did we put in as our input to get the outputs. So remember here the rule was we were going to multiply the x's by 4. So now if I know y, I can always work backwards to figure out what number did we put in. Okay, so again here I will be doing the opposite operation. Let's remind you. So in order for me to get x, we did 4. I'm sorry about that one. In order for us to get y, we did 4 times x. So now if I know the y's, and I know the rule, I can always work backwards to see what number did we plug in. So I could divide both sides by 4. So and when we do y divided by 4, that will tell me what number we put in here. So for example, let's take a look at 16. So if I know 16 was an output, what number when we multiply by 4, that will give me 16. So here we have to do 16 divided by 4, and that will give me 4. That will tell me we plug in 4. So that is called the inverse when we work backwards, similar with the equations that we learned earlier in the year. Okay, go ahead and try to see what function is this. Try to figure out the function rule. Alright, let's go ahead and put them in order. Alright, so now see if you can see the rule now. We're going from x to 4. Now this one is a little bit more complicated, so okay, and then here we can see now in order for me to get the outputs, again these are the in order for me to get the outputs, I have to do 3x, I have to triple the x's and then add 1. That's how I'm going to get y, the outputs. So if we do 3 times 1, we get 3 plus 1, and we get 4 for y. Same thing to the next x. We do 3 times 2 plus 1, and we get 7. Please keep in mind the orders of operation when we deal with functions that have more than one steps. Okay, and then and so on. We just plug in the x's into the equation, again into the rule. This is the rule of the function. This is telling me what we do to the x's to get y. Alright, and then of course the inverse here. Now let's see if you guys can tell me how will I figure out what x is if I know y. Now keep in mind what the original rule was. Okay, remember the original rule was in order for us to get y, we need to do triple the x's and then add 1. So now tell me how we will figure out the x's if I know how to get y. Okay, so again here we will be doing the inverse operation. Instead of adding 1, we will subtract 1, and instead of multiplying by 3, we will divide by 3. So the original was to get y, we did 3x plus 1. So now to solve this, I will do the opposite. Again, working backwards, so I'll get y minus 1 equal to 3 times x, and then divide both sides by 3. So I do the inverse of what we will normally do 2x to get y. So now I do the inverse operation to y in order to figure out what number was our input. Again, it is the same as solving the equations where we have to work backwards for the missing value. Forgot my equal sign there, and that will give me x. Again, so that will be us working backwards. That's an inverse function. Okay, so now we are going to use this to graph. Now let's go back a little bit. So here we had the points. So we had 1, x was 1, y is 4, 2 is x, and then here y is 7, when x is 3, y is 10, when x is 4, y is 13, and when x is 5, y is 16. So from this point, we can go ahead and create a graph with this table. So this is one way that we can represent function, is by creating a table. Okay, this is one way to represent a function, by creating a table. Now the next way to represent a function is by graphing it. So here I have the points 1, 4, 2, 7, 3, 10, 4, 13, and 5, 16. So now we can go ahead and create a graph. Okay, so 1, 4. Okay, so again, x is on the x-axis is 1, then we go up 4. When x is 2, y is 7 right here. That'll be my point, and so on and so forth. And you guys can see that this is a linear function because it creates a line. Okay, in the word linear, you guys can see line, and you can definitely see that this is a straight line, not a curve. There it is. Okay, so go ahead and try this one by yourself. Go ahead and plug in these. Fine, there go the inputs, the x's, and then here is the function rule. Now you need to take in these numbers, plug them in here for x, and then solve. All we're doing really is substituting once we know the rule, and then with the order pairs, then we go ahead and graph them. So go ahead and try to graph this one by yourselves. Okay, welcome back. Alright, so here when we do 2 times negative 2 minus 3, we will get negative 7. So this is my ordered pair right here, which will be negative 2, negative 7, which is down here. Now substituting 1 for x now, negative 1. And then here's the next point. Again, 2 times negative 1, which is negative 2 minus 3, negative 5. Substituting 0. And then my y will be negative 3. Substituting 1, positive 1 this time. And then we can clearly see that this is a linear function. Okay, it will form a straight line. Now this will be a positive line. Okay guys, well that was it for today with functions. Hopefully that wasn't too overwhelming, and you guys have a great one. Bye bye.